Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked, and on this occasion, I am joined by James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Yeah, very well, thanks. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. We are here after those brief introductions to chat about last night's friendly between Hearts Midlothian and Tottenham Hotspur. We'll also touch on Joe Savage's confirmed departure from Hearts as sporting director. We obviously did a episode on that when the news emerged at the end of May, beginning of June. So we won't delve too deep into that. Cause a lot of what we just cover old ground essentially from what we said before. But before we get to that, we will talk about the game from last night. It finished 5-1 to Spurs. Yet I think for large periods, 45 minutes to an hour, Hearts could be pretty happy with the outing. That's certainly how I felt. I felt watching it last night at the ground that it was actually in that first I'm ignoring the last 30 minutes in that hour. I was pretty I thought it was a pretty entertaining and competitive game for what was a friendly. You were not the game last night, but you have watched it back. Am I correct in my assessment?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. Like you say, like up until maybe the hour mark, maybe just before, it was a pretty even game. You know, like obviously Spurs were 1-0 up at the break, but both sides had chances. But yeah, as you say, like then when the changes start getting made, the wheels did kind of fall off a little bit towards the end. Maybe a bit of tiredness there, because I guess that's one of the big things. I think it was like why this friendly went ahead in the first place, why Spurs were picked, is because like we know Ange Postecoglou likes to play high intensity football. We know that obviously Tottenham are obviously just a better team than Hearts, pound for pound, man for man. And so I think that the reason this has been arranged in the first place is probably Naismith looking at it and going, right, it'd be good to play, against a team who are superior quality, who do play with a lot of intensity, because that's how it might be in Europe this season. Like the intensity is going to be higher, the tempo is going to be higher, and players are going to have to go the full 90, go the full distance. So I think that was probably part of the thinking of it, and I think that understandably, I think some players maybe flagged. I got a bit tired towards the end as well. Those that played a bit longer than others. So I think that's why, and I think that for that reason, it will be a good exercise for the players, even when you taking that last half hour into consideration.
So on that, it was so that the friendly was ideal in terms of that preparation for Europe. Naismith talked about that. However, the timing of the friendly, I think it would mean he would have preferred it in 2 weeks' time. I think he would have preferred that as being the final friendly before the start of the league campaign, because, to allow the team and the squad to get a few games under the belt before being tested like that. Yeah. And in that scenario or environment of not having a lot of the ball, having to be composed when they have the ball, seeing how mistakes can be so easily punished by top teams, but just with the circumstance around the celebrations around the 150th and just timings, the game was played last night rather than like a week on Saturday when Hearts travelled down to Fleetwood and play what is likely to be their final friendly before the league season kicks off at home to Rangers. But yeah, absolutely, I think it's a test they want in terms of what you said about the tempo of Postecoglou's side and just the quality and the way that they can move the ball so quickly, the way they can win the ball back so quickly. Now, kind of breaking down the friendly, what I'm thinking, I will give my takeaways from the game one by one, and you can say if you agree or disagree. So, I mean, the first one is Gerald Taylor. I thought it was sensational, and very much I am going to be banging the drum of Gerald Taylor's fan club and believe that he will be, of the 7 signings so far, the best of the pick of the bunch, and perhaps one of the best signings the club have made in recent years. It was 60 minutes in a friendly. I know, but I'm allowed to get carried away. We're allowed to get carried away.
I'll disagree with that. I think that's maybe a bit much in that he's played 60 minutes of a friendly. Let's calm down. But there's no getting away from it. It was very impressive. both defensively and offensively. I thought as well. Actually, there's times where there was that point. I think it was 3 minutes into the game when he already cut out a loose pass by just reading the game really well, being really quick, getting out to the ball quickly, and he did that a few times. There's that run he had as well at one point in the first half where he basically just kind of bursts past 2 Tottenham players, I think, and then takes on a third, and then the third one kind of eventually wins the ball back. But then he just wins the ball back again, shoves the guy off the ball, gets the ball in the box. Tagoe should be doing better. Again, I'm sure we'll go on to talk about that. And there were a few times like that. There's another chance right at the end of the first half when Taylor played a great ball in. Again, Tagoe didn't cover himself in glory with the finish. We'll maybe let him away with that on the basis that he might have been offside, I think, looking back at it. I think he might have just been off. But certainly Taylor was definitely the standout, I think. I thought he looked really impressive. And it's all, when you put it, I think the most impressive aspect of it was the fact that he's doing all that. He only got in the building a few days ago. And, he's been playing over the summer for his country, so it's not as if he's particularly fresh. He's probably, he's had a hell of a long season, I would imagine. So I think in order to go and hit the ground running against that caliber of opponent as well, it's hard not to get excited. But having said that, I still think you're getting a bit too excited. Calm down.
I will allow myself to get carried away because to be fair, it doesn't take long, and I'm allowed to be really excited about signings. You can write them off as a fan. You can either write them off straight away or just think that's the best item the club have made ever, and then that's usually somewhere in the middle. But on Taylor, there'll be a piece going out on the site tomorrow, just a wee bit of background about him. Spoken to a couple of people about him. Looking at his kind of development, and he came here, and you made the right point. He was in, so he arrived in Scotland last week, but Hearts were in Tenerife, so he didn't join up with the team until Monday there. I believe it was his first training session, and this comes after 2 years of playing non-stop football. I think I counted that he's played over 110 games for club and country over the last 2 seasons. So he's played a lot of football, and having spoken to his agent, he was offered to have a wee bit more time off before getting up and running, just because of the Copa America. But he was really keen to get in the door and make an impression. He did that last night, and the first run you talked about, where he took on 3 Spurs players, won it back, got the cross in for Tagawa. You could hear the appreciation from the Hearts crowd. Immediately they're on his side, and it was the same with Vargas. Just that attitude, kind of in your face, aggressive attitude. It just engages the home support, and it just puts credit in the bank immediately, and allows that wee bit more time to adapt and settle, a wee bit more patience. I liked the defensive side of his game. Just liked his kind of aggression and his directness, and it was a cross for the second Tagawa chance that really impressed me, where he made a run down the right hand side, offering for Dander, and then it looked like he was going to cross the ball. He delayed it, and then made the cross, and it was even better. And you just if Shankland was on the end of probably both or one of those chances, you'd expect Hearts to have scored from it. So very, very encouraged.
Yeah, definitely. You imagine Shankland must have been sitting there on the bench just licking his lips. He must have just been, this looks great. Can't wait to get involved. And I think, all in all, I think Taylor was really impressive. The other thing as well, about, like I said, he made that intersection 2 or 3 minutes into the game. And again, immediately you had the whole crowd again, just cheering him on, getting really behind them. And I think it was a really, really encouraging performance from a player that shows plenty of promise at the moment, but early days, so just don't get carried away yet.
No, you can't stop me. Moving on to another takeaway. I didn't write about this in the piece on Hearts Standard, but it was one of the things that stood out was Oyegoke's performance at centre back. It was strong, and I thought he was more than anything really, really composed. And a couple of passes, one that didn't quite find the man, but another did, where he was really kind of progressive with some of his passing out from the back, and kind of really forceful with it. Again, stands in kind of good stead. He's a big presence as well.
Yeah, no, I thought he looked pretty good. I think he's probably one of the ones I'd say probably flagged towards the end. I think, was it the third goal? I think he could have maybe done a little bit better for. But all in all, again, really solid performance from him. And again, at centre half as well. So it looks like that's probably where his primary position is going to be at Hearts, because also we spoke about the fact that he can play centre half, he can play right back, he can maybe do wing back as well. And I think the fact that he's in that central role, that's probably an indication of where he's going to be. Probably Taylor's going to be first pick. Maybe Oyegoke's there to provide a bit of cover as well.
I think just on his position, speaking to Neil McFarlane when because it was Oyegoke and Naismith were both like right side defender, centre back, right sided centre back, right wing back. Any of those happy to play. When I kind of pushed Neil McFarlane, who worked with under Brentford, he was like, if I was to pick a position, it's right sided centre back. I think that's where a lot of I think where he has a big future, and I think we can see that in the way he plays.
I think just looking at him, like it's just the size of him, his frame, his profile, like he looks like a centre half. Let's be honest, he's a big lad. So no, again, I think that's he had a pretty good performance. Again, he would have had every incentive to do well as a former Arsenal player playing against Spurs. I'm sure he quite enjoyed himself. But no, I thought he was pretty solid again. Quite similar to the Leyton Orient game. Again, I thought particularly in the first half looked really solid. Then again, maybe got a little bit tired as the game wore on. But I think there's one of the goals towards the end. I think it was the third one where he was maybe beaten a little bit easily. Looked maybe again a little bit leggy. But obviously that's something that just happens this time of year. It's pre-season.
Moving on to the midfield, I think probably the standout or the kind of the big talking point was Jorge Grant. He played in a deeper role. It's something I've sort of talked about with pals this summer in terms of where he fits in. Just with Danda coming in, Spittle coming in, just like where is Jorge Grant getting minutes? And I was wondering if there was a chance for him to be a more kind of sitting player who could fill in for Benny or can do that kind of role. I thought over the piece last night he did pretty well. There was a couple of slack passes in the second half. There was one where he kind of got caught in between playing it to the left winger or the left back, and it kind of went to Spurs player. But over the course of the game, I thought he brought a bit of composure to midfield, and he got stuck in and made key interventions when Spurs were kind of ramping up that quick passing in and around the Hearts box, where he was able to snuff out a couple of dangerous attacks.
Yeah, no, I thought it worked as an experiment. It went pretty well, to be honest. In possession, like you say, there was one or two slack passes which weren't great, obviously, but I think the flip side of that is that he's also able to play passes like with a bit more pace or a bit further than like Benny can, for instance. Like you maybe lose a bit in accuracy, but you get a greater range, I think. And I think that helped a couple of times when Hearts were kind of countering and things like that. Out of possession, yeah, job better than I thought he'd be. So I'll be honest, I look at him and I think, looking at him over last season, I didn't really think that he had much in that side of the game. He had a few performances here and there where he had to get kind of stuck in. I'm thinking Celtic Park away, the 2-0 win springs to mind. But you're right. I mean, in general, particularly again the way that Spurs play, where they've got so many bodies in and around the box, and it's lots of quick one-touch passing, it can be really difficult to keep up. But I think Grant did a fairly good job of that. Again, I still think Benny probably offers you more off the ball. I think he's just a bit more reliable, but again, if we're talking about is Grant going to be kind of like the understudy to Benny this season, I think last night's game showed that that's potentially an option for sure. Again, we probably need to see more of it. We need to see him.
Yeah, of course.
It's like I'd like to see it in a game where Hearts have got that kind of midfield triangle where you've got Grant at the 6, and then Neuendorf and whoever ahead of him. Playing in a game where the Hearts have got 60% possession, because like let's face it, most Hearts games in the league are like that. Yep. So how does he work in that scenario? But certainly it did show that play against that kind of caliber opponent, he is capable of doing it. So he's probably done his case for like making sure he's included in that European squad. I don't think he's done his case any harm as a result of that, because it might well be that in Europe, like maybe he does that role, but in domestically he does something a bit differently.
And just what Scott Alexander said on that is, I like the way Grant and Danda linked up. Looks good for the season, which leads me on to Jan Danda. Again, I thought it was another encouraging performance from the new signing, played as a number 10. Probably the biggest aspect I liked was just his willingness or his just ability to find space and make himself an option for teammates. I think we'll find that this season, where as a number 10, he won't just stick centrally. If he gets kind of squeezed out or there's not a lot of space, he's happy to drift to the wing and look for the ball there and maybe have some combinations. But I think over the piece that he showed plenty of encouragement. Of course, a really nice touch for the goal that Lawrence Shankland scored after half time as well.
Yeah, that was nice, because that was obviously we had to react very quickly to that, and Shankland just about stayed onside as well, which is good as well. But to be honest, I think I agree with most of what you said there. I think that I really like the way, like you say, he's quite mobile for a number 10. He's happy to drift around and find those pockets of space if there's none where he is. And particularly when he was drifting wide, there was that great chance. Maybe only been about 10 minutes or so into the game when, again, it comes from Dan taking up a wide position. He's got a bit of time in the ball, and he kind of cuts into the box. He shapes as if he's going to shoot, and then at the last minute, kind of just pokes it across to Devlin, who then hits a shot, and Devlin kind of pokes it over the bar first time.
Yeah.
But really, again, clever play, because you see Devlin's initially Devlin charges in, then he retreats a bit, and he charges back in again. He retreats again, and it's just it shows that Danda, while he's shaping to make that shot, he's constantly keeping an eye on all the players around him in the box. He's very aware of who's available and when. And I thought it was a really nice bit of play. So again, very neat and tidy. Again, I thought from Danda. Liked it. It was good.
And my final takeaway before I ask, any other thoughts from watching it from yourself was Tagawa's probably not done himself any. He's not done himself a good service over the last two games. I thought he was on the periphery against Leyton Orient, and then last night obviously missed two not gilt edge. One was gilt edge chance, another was a decent chance, but it was more. I just not seeing enough of him as a focal point if he was to play as the central striker. Just is the kind of awareness of where to be, or just reading of the game, or reading off a ball coming in and using his body to bring it in. And you compare it. I know it's difficult comparing them to Shankland, but it's a natural comparison because they are the two number 9s in the squad. But the ball wasn't at Shankland's feet, and you kind of trust him to look after it, keep it safe, or to link play with Tagawa. I think he's too erratic when it comes into him. So yeah, I don't think he helped his case.
Yeah, no, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there, in that the way he plays Tagawa, again, is it's kind of all round plays, not like Shankland. He doesn't drop deep and get involved and hold the ball for a while, move it on. He's very much his job is to get on, be the last man at the end of the attack to poke the ball into the net. That's his job. And when you're missing chances like that, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you're not scoring goals, what are you doing? You're not. You're kind of in the job. You've got one job within that team, and it's getting. If you're not going to be getting involved in build-up play, if you're not going to be in the way Shankland doesn't drop deep, you need to be just the very tip of the spear. Your job is to be there when the balls come in the box and finish off those moves. And when you're not doing that, you're not really offering that much. So I think that, again, it's unfortunate because, like you say, we're comparing him to Shankland, and that's not exactly fair, because Shankland's one of a generation talent, blah blah blah, all the rest of it. So I do feel for Tagawa a bit, but you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a centre forward. Though he had at least two very good chances on Wednesday night, and completely missed the target on both. Which it's difficult to defend. At least if he hits the target, then you go, oh well, fine. Goes made a save. There's that chance in the first half when it came from a corner, I think, and Oda, the ball kind of came back into Oda, and he had that header from maybe 5-6 yards out, and the goalie makes a save, and you go, all right, well, fine. Should he score? Probably still, but okay, he's got that target. Goalie's made a save, fine. Oyegoke. It's like, you can't even say that, can you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a couple of goals, it'd be really nice to see him get a couple of goals in pre-season just to kind of
keep that momentum.
Because it's just the question still remains of, if Shankland gets injured or, God forbid, gets sold, it just doesn't look as if the goals are there in the team anymore. Obviously you're taking out a hell of a lot of goals, but it doesn't even look, it doesn't even look as if there's going to be anyone who's capable of providing regular goals when you take him out. So that's definitely an issue for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that would be an interesting one to keep an eye on over the rest of the transfer window. Before we move on, was there anything else that you saw that was worthy of discussion or something that stood out for you?
I guess the only other thing I'd mention is Kai Rose at left back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wasn't convinced. And again, fair enough, he's up against Kulusevski, I can't remember his name, Swedish guy. Again, wonderful player. Okay, he's not going to be playing for that standard in the Premiership every week. But again, it's that way. He's obviously got the kind of athleticism to do it. I think he's big enough. I think he's fast enough to do that job. But I think that I'm not sure if his positioning's quite right all the time, and I don't know if he's got that kind of that level of discipline. Maybe it's just because even though he plays at centre half, he's not used to playing left back. It's going to take a while to get used to it. But yeah, we're talking in the last episode about what's going to happen at left back now. Cochrane's away, and yeah, I don't think Rose is the answer, to be honest.
I don't think you're the only one to come away from the game thinking that as well. I've seen a lot of comments, yesterday, or people looking at the depth at left back and wondering what will go on there. But I do think that if you're looking at a back four, I was thinking it last night, where you've got, again, very early judgments being made, but you've got Taylor, Oyegoke, Kent, and then potentially Stephen Kingsley as a left back. That's a formidable back four, a big back four, especially in Scotland. Yeah. And then James Penrice as well. I know, obviously brought him in. Hearts like him a lot. Stephen Naismith really likes him. So he got that option. So I wonder if maybe Kai Rose will essentially be kind of third choice left back at the moment, unless Hearts go out and bring in a replacement for Cochrane and he becomes a fourth choice left back. So I do wonder if it's just circumstance at the moment that it's a way to get him some minutes, with Penrice not quite ready for friendlies. Stephen Kingsley just got a kind of small, I think it's a small niggle, so he's kind of not being risked. That I'd be surprised if come the end of the season, Kai Rose has made the most amount of appearances at left back, but who knows? I still think he is best as a left-sided centre back in a three.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. Yeah. And like you say, obviously, the game against Leyton Orient, we had Ethan Drysdale started, then Doll came on, then I got Rose, like you say, Kingsley and Penrice are still there as well. So I get the feeling that I think Penrice and Kingsley will probably share most of the left back duties, and then obviously Rose can do there in a pinch, which I think was probably the case last night. But yeah, certainly. I mean, there might be some Premiership games you might get away with it, but certainly I'd be looking at that and going, you can't play Rose at left back in Europe, I don't think.
No, but saying that, it's like he's played there for a fair amount for Australia, and again, I should have looked at this, or I looked this up and seen that the level of opponent he's come up against, because again, when you're playing for Australia in their qualifiers, you come up against teams where the quality is not all that great, whereas he's obviously played against teams that are very, very good, but I think he's largely been a centre-back there, so he has experience there, but I don't think it's his best or strongest position. Moving on, before we finish up, we'll just touch on Joe Savage's departure. Hearts announced today that he was stepping down from his role as sporting director. The statement said that he expressed his desire to leave his role to take some much needed time out from the demands of the football world. He said, "I'd firstly like to say a big thank you to everyone I've worked with at the club over the past 3.5 years. I've loved my time at Hearts, and it's the people you work with that made this place special, so they all have my gratitude. I'd also like to thank Andrew McKinley, Stephen Naismith, and the board of directors for their support during my tenure, as we all work together to drive the club forward. I'm the type of person who, when looking to the future, wants to be able to shake everyone by the hand and leave with my head held high. I believe that now is the right time to do that. A lot has changed since I came to the club. I've worked hard to make improvements, and I think I've done a good job. Qualifying for Europe 3 years in a row for the first time in the club's history is a good indicator of that, as is the women's team's league performance and reaching the women's Scottish Cup final. The academy is going from strength to strength, and I'm certain the first teams will bear the fruits of that for years to come. I'm not certain what the future holds for me, but I'm a risk taker, so watch this space. Which I found is an interesting part in line to see what comes for Joe Savage. Again, like we said, we discussed this on a previous episode. Probably is the right time to kind of move on. I think just he's been here 3.5 years. I think the key takeaway is you look at the club he came into in December 2020, and you look at the club he has left now in July 2024. It's in a much better position.
Yeah, it is. And obviously a whole bunch of people rightly take credit for that.
Yes.
Managers, both Naismith and Nielsen. Like so the players as well. But I think the kind of similar to what you're thinking there. I think the best way to judge someone like a sporting director would be, okay, what was the squad like when he was first there, and then what's the squad like now? And again, it's it's night and day in terms of the amount of quality for it, the amount of, and also just like not only just like obviously the quality of players that have been brought in, but the different kind of parts of the world and different markets and stuff as well that they've come from. Whereas you look back to those days and. Hearts weren't signing guys from Japan and Costa Rica and all the rest. It was like guys from Scotland or maybe England, and you can kind of give them a punt, see what happens. So I think that, so the squad's definitely better than it was. And I think Savage deserves a lot of credit for that. And again, I think it's the way that Hearts are kind of doing their scouting and all that seems to have changed as well, as far as I can tell. Which again, I think he deserves credit for. So. I think he's right. I think he can't leave with his head held high. I know he's taken some flack at times from fans, particularly during last season, particularly during the first half, and people give him a bit of a hard time. But I think that a lot of the signings from last season have fitted in pretty well. You'd say they're probably successes. And looking at the window so far as well this summer, where again. We've not seen much of them, it's hard to say. But certainly on paper, they all seem like very good, sensible signings. Like really good, solid signings for a club of Hearts' stature. So, I think that his time can be looked back on fondly. And now it's just a case of we'll be seeing who follows him and who follows him into the job.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me on to the next point is Andrew McKinley. So kind of pay tribute to his hard work. He's been involved in many aspects of our operation at Oregon, which has allowed the football department to flourish in recent years and enjoy success on the pitch. It was with a heavy heart that I see him go, but this is the nature of the football business. People come and go, but I'm glad he's in a position to be able to leave on his own terms. Our attentions now turn to what happens next. Succession planning is always high on our agenda, and already internal discussions have taken place with regards to how we take the football department forward in the best interests of the club. As those talks continue, I will provide updates as appropriate. So, I mean, this has been coming for nearly 7 weeks, being on the cards for 7 weeks, just with the news emerging at the end of May that Savage is going to be stepping down this summer from his role. So Hearts have had plenty of time to kind of assess the market, where they want to bring in a sporting director or if they want to look internally. I'm not sure exactly what direction to go. I think Will Lansfield, the head of recruitment, I think he'll take on certainly more responsibility. I don't know if there might just be a reshuffle with the personnel within the club, and there'll be almost a reshuffle with different people looking over different aspects of the football department. There's obviously usual names being bandied around from as former players. Like John Robertson, he had the director of football role at Inverness Caledonian Thistle. He would obviously be a very popular appointment. And then obviously Takis Fisas as well, who has had kind of football or kind of director roles within Greece football. Well, it was the Greek national team, Tynecastle as well. Again, he would be a very popular one. The good thing is that like a lot of the work this summer has been just taken place. A lot of the signings are already in place, and there is a good for whoever comes in, whether it's externally or there's a reshuffle internally. There's a good platform there for the club to grow.
Well, I guess you've kind of touched on it there, but there's one thing I guess that does spring to mind. I mean, maybe I'm just being an idiot and if I'm being daft, then fine. But looking at it, if all these signings have come in, we've looked at the squad. The squad look as if the squad's pretty good shape. There shouldn't be too much changes needed. Sporting director's now left. Should fans be looking into that and saying, okay, well, that's probably the summer transfer business just about done?
No, I don't think so. I think they're still looking at the market. I wouldn't be surprised if the club signed one or two more players between now and the end of August. Again, I think there's always long-term planning. It's something that even with Savage going, that he kind of oversaw the recruitment department, but his role was kind of the final bit of it in terms of, well, you kind of oversees the staff, but then his role would be kind of negotiating deals. And I think that's maybe where Will Lansfield might step up and take on greater responsibility. But in terms of unearthing players or picking out players or potential interest, that comes from Stephen Naismith. That comes from the recruitment. That comes from like contacts without that maybe they trust and they hear about a player, or they have been aware of a player for a couple of years who becomes available. So I don't think Savage's departure now will have any great meaning on the rest of the transfer window.
I'm going to ask you one last question as well. So out of all the players that have arrived during Joe Savage's stint as sporting director, who's been the best value for money?
Oh, I mean, Shankland.
Apart from Shankland.
Let's see. Who has been the best value for money? Frankie Kent stands out. So looking at other people who came in, Xander Clark, Alan Forrest, George Grant, Josh Ginnelly it's difficult because he was quite inconsistent and then had a brilliant season. Cochrane and Benny came in as well, so Cochrane would certainly be in that discussion. Ellis Sims on loan had a really good impact, but yeah, aside from Lauren Shankland, I would probably go Frankie Kent and Alex Cochrane.
Very good. I think this is what I'm definitely gambling on, but I'm going to go with Kenny Vargas.
Yeah.
I think he's a player who I think he'll make Hearts a good bit of cash down the line, and Hearts will get some good years out of him in the meantime. So I'll go for that one, even though we're still don't know how that one's going to end. I
wonder if I know it's quite a. It shouldn't be this way, but just how much of a positive impact having Gerald Taylor will have on Vargas, and that he's been here a year now. He's settled. He understands Scottish football, and because I seen he put on Twitter, he was at the Instagram yesterday. He was at the game yesterday. I think he returns to training either today or tomorrow. And I think on put on Instagram, it's like that basically. Now I have a friend. That just or a Costa Rican friend or something, and I think that will be just make them feel more at home and just having kind of that comfort aspect. I think maybe see them kick on. So yeah, hopefully the two Costa Ricans can not only deliver success but make us some coin in the long term.
Gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing them both playing on the right hand side, and again, just because they're both very industrious. Legs for days there, so I want to see what that looks like. Hopefully we'll get that against Fleetwood, I suppose. I guess that's the next chance, because there's a game this weekend, right? But it's behind closed doors. Is that right?
Yes, it is against Burnley on Saturday. I think the B team go down as well. I think they play two games. They play in Burnley 21s on the Friday, and then they've got a game against a lower league side on the Sunday or Monday, I think it is. And then Hearts play Burnley on Saturday up behind closed doors, and Naismith told Barry even News that it's essentially 2 75-minute games, so there'll be loads of opportunity for players to get a good amount of minutes under their belts ahead of the Fleetwood game a week on Saturday, which should have a number of Hearts fans going down to.
Yeah, I'm sure I heard there's at least 1,000 going down to that already.
Yeah, I think it'll be 4 figures, low 4 figures. I think it was sold. The allocation was certainly sold out early on. I think they released more tickets, but yeah, a lot of Hearts fans think will take the trip down to Blackpool or Preston for the weekend and see Hearts at Fleetwood as nice preparation for some travels in Europe for the rest of the season. We will leave it there. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, continuing to subscribe, engage, read. Listen to us. Very much appreciated. If you can, please subscribe and like the YouTube channel. It means a lot to us. But until the next time we do a video, we'll probably start next week. Have a very good rest of the week and have a very good weekend. That goes for you too, James. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.